The Trap Set will always be available for free, but we rely on donations from our listeners. Please visit our website at thetrapset.net and click Donate. Subscribe to our show on iTunes, and if you enjoy what you hear, give us a review.
This episode of The Trap Set is brought to you in part by Colectivo Coffee, handmade coffee since 1993. Check them out online at colectivo.com. This is Joe Wong. Welcome to The Trap Set, where each week we explore the lives of drummers. I'm going to play something for you. You're hearing Stratus by my guest, Billy Cobham. Cobham started drumming professionally as a young child in his father's band, and eventually started working with many of the top names in jazz. However, it was his tenure with Mahavishnu Orchestra, which he co-founded in 1970 with guitarist John McLaughlin, that cemented his reputation as one of the most exciting and influential drummers of his generation. Mahavishnu combined the harmonic sophistication of jazz, rhythmic meters from world music, and the raw energy of rock to create a unique sound that was dubbed fusion by the music press. Over the past 40-plus years, Billy has earned his reputation as one of the most important drummers of all time. He's released popular and influential recordings as a leader, and has collaborated with everyone from Grateful Dead to Roberta Flack. In some way or another, his influence has trickled down to every drummer that's followed in his wake. Much has been made of Cobham's technical virtuosity, his ambidextrousness, lightning-fast speed, and unparalleled precision. And while these attributes are impressive, they're merely vehicles for his larger aesthetic vision. Cobham is not just a drummer. He's an artist who plays drums. And now our interview with one of the all-time greats, Billy Cobham. What brought your family to the States?
Work.
Yeah?
Looking for work. My father was a statistician, and primarily, and then a musician secondarily.
Was he a drummer as well?
No, he was a pianist.
Was there music in the home always as a child?
Always.
Tell me about the kind of music that you would hear as a child.
Well, because we're from Panama, it's Latin music, Latin American music. Aside from that, jazz, classical, some types of classical.
Did you speak Spanish in the home?
No, for social reasons, for sure. And we were in New York City. We were in a black community. Right, sort of like a Black Caribbean community, and most of the people in our neighborhood spoke English because those were the Black Caribbean blacks from the Barbados, from the English colonies. Not one block over, literally, everybody spoke Spanish. And unfortunately, now I've moved back to Panama, and
you moved back to Panama?
Yeah, I moved back to Panama about 4 or 5 years ago.
Oh, okay, got it.
And I haven't. But the thing is I haven't been in Panama long enough to get rooted in enough to go back and study Spanish really. So I just more have the body language of the community and understand basic generalities of what's happening in Spanish.
Are you a known entity down there as a musician?
Not really, and that's also it's. I've avoided in a good way. In a way, it's good for me because all I want to be there is enjoy the peace and quiet of the region, and because it's wonderful, that's enough for me. I'm not looking to make any kind of a major imprint there. No.
As a child, did you want to become a musician? Was that your dream?
Yeah, it was it wasn't assumed by my folks, but it's what I did.
Was there a time when you discovered a music that was distinct from what your parents were listening to?
They like Basie, they like Dizzy, they like Brubeck, they like Johnny Mathis, they like Sinatra. The whole funk thing they were not into so much.
Okay.
They were into the Latin thing very heavily. And I wasn't into the funk thing either. You know, that just was not my direction. As a matter of fact, I think it had a lot to do with my social environment, because we were not Afro-Americans as much as we were Caribbean Americans. And so we
And you had more of an
towards
immigrant American lifestyle.
Well, we were not from the black African American environment in the United States, and that particular lifestyle reflected a specific kind of music. You know, so you had your James Browns and all that. That was beautiful, but it just wasn't mine. You know, mine was more the Tito Rodriguez's and the Tito Puentes and all of this, and it then started to lean into Latin, jazz, funk, even going towards Carlos Santana, going towards Santana, or going towards Azteca, you know, of which they're more kind of my people, you know, the Escovedos, this kind of thing. That's where I was at.
How old were you when you started playing drums?
3.
Okay, so there were drums in the house?
All the time.
Drum kit or hand drums?
Hand drums, pots and pans, knives and forks, spoons, whatever we can get our hands on to beat on something.
Did you play piano as well?
No, I actually left that to my father. You
Okay.
know, that one I couldn't compete on. He had a very special way in that he could, and that's how he could, being a mathematician, statistician, the mind would start to work with him in an interesting way. I mean, he would go and he'd sit down and he'd listen to music. He never read any music. And he could take a song that if you were even in a kind of a mild drunken stupor and you decided to sing, you would ask him, say, can you play a portrait of Jenny or so like this? And he said, well, I'm not quite sure. Sing it for me and let me see if you know the tune. And it didn't matter what key. It just, hands fell right into place where it worked. And he would phrase with you. Even if you were out of tune, he would make you sound good. Voila, the end result was some extra tips here or there, you know, and somehow it paid the bills.
So he did work as a musician as well?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a pianist in the cocktail lounge for extra money after hours, whatever. Because, I mean, families of our type had to find ways to invent ourselves to make some extra bucks. We weren't making exactly, you know, top dollar.
And did he ever want you to do something like pursue higher education and become a doctor or a lawyer or a professional? Or was he supportive of you being a musician?
I think he did, but he didn't push it. If anything, he was just trying. The one thing, he just wanted me to grow up healthy and get and be able to make a good way for myself. And in the process, if it was music, so be it. You know, if it would have been something else, probably the same.
And you never really had to do anything else, did you?
No, because that's exactly what I did, and it was a safe haven for me. You know, when I was young, I found that I could hide within the music, and I could just be creative there in what little way that might have been.
What kind of things were you hiding from?
Don't know. You know, I think that for me, again, if that's a really good question, in that the first word is I don't know, and then it starts to come to the surface that I don't know really kind of means don't want to go outside, may get into a fight, may get into some kind of conflict. Our little community is very small in the larger community, whether they be white or even intraracial and black. You know, that could be. Better stay home. You know. So what I do is that I write music, or I'd listen to music more than write music. I couldn't write music at the time. I'd listen to music and in that way learn from what I was listening to.
That's interesting because, you know, what once was your kind of safe realm to hide away from the world eventually was your vehicle for working with all different kinds of people.
Correct.
Taking you around the world.
Correct.
So as a child, did you feel like an other? Did you feel like you didn't fit into mainstream America?
Oh, no, I felt very fine with that because I also liked some other things that mainstream America liked as well, which was baseball,
Did you
or
play?
something like this. So I played baseball. I was the smallest catcher in the world, but and
Not a very good
beat.
target.
Yeah, but neither was Yogi Berra, So but it just was an area where I think as kids you want to be accepted by your peers. You want to be accepted as being special in some way. You want to stand out, especially if you're the runt of everybody else running around. Everybody else is like, I can do this, alpha, 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 and I'm Z.
You're Z.
I'm Zeta. I'm way back. Like, yeah, well, what can you do? I can do this. Boom, 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 boom. Or you play, or I'll catch.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because nobody else wanted to catch me because they get hit with a bat. But I was so small, the bat would go over my head. So it didn't matter.
Were you raised in any kind of religious tradition?
We were Methodists in the family primarily. Yeah, either that or sometimes Episcopalian. Sometimes the names just changed, but primarily we were Protestant.
What about now? Are you a spiritual person, religious?
I think
person?
I am, but I'm not under any denomination.
Mm-hmm.
I just happen to have this thing where I tend to lean towards right and wrong and logic and how, come on, man, this is wrong.
Right.
Why do that?
Right.
This does, and that for me has kept me out of a lot of problems. Just stepping back and going, okay, this doesn't look right. I better go the other way. That's it.
Tell me about when you started playing professionally. How old were you when that happened?
About 6 or 7. Dad, I was working with him. Just the way I was paid was, you have a place to sleep, right? Uh-huh. Is that a roof over your head? Uh-huh. Bed, right? Sheets are clean, everything? Yeah, uh-huh. Food? Yeah, you eat food. Uh-huh. That costs money, right? Yeah. He says, well, there you go. So I played for that. I mean, technically, but...
Did that give you a sense of pride, though, to be contributing?
Yes.
From a young age?
Yeah, because he needed help.
Yeah.
So that was the whole objective. He didn't have the drummer that he needed, and it was done in the right frame of mind. It wasn't because, oh man, I'm not getting this, I'm not getting that. It was, we're helping. Families are kind of small little clans. And if you don't help each other, the family doesn't work.
I wonder if that's partially what resonated with you when you saw Pete and Sheila play years later and produce their albums as a father and daughter team. Did you identify with that?
I can identify with that easily. Well, what I saw in Sheila Escovedo especially was Anita Escovedo, which is mom, and a sense of stability, and all of the kids, Peter, Michael, and all, Alejandro, they all tend to, and as many Latin American families do, they focus on mom and pop. And grandma and grandpa. It's a clan. It's everybody supports everybody else. That's hard to find elsewhere, and but it's not impossible. But it's very difficult, and especially in lower middle class families and below, because they're just, God bless them, just trying to survive. Just trying to make it the best way they can. And sometimes, and most often than not, they are not strong enough to hold things together, and everybody goes their separate ways. Primarily mom and dad, and then that leaves the kids to try to make decisions for themselves, which are not very rarely, if I can say it, good decisions. They have no model really.
Other than your father, did you have musical mentors growing up?
No.
So you were always pretty self-directed as far as drumming?
Yes, I love to watch musicians play. I love the Sonny Paynes. I love the Louis Belsons, the Max Roaches, Roy Haynes, Elvin Jones. All these people, different personalities. The Buddy Richards, all had major differences in the way that they approached playing the drum set at the time.
Were they all equally influential to your style at different points, or were there a few that kind of influenced you more than others?
I think that they were all equally influential to me because I didn't choose to do anything more from one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
There are some things I liked, but many things that I disliked, or I chose not to do because I didn't agree with the concept and approach.
But when do you feel like your style kind of came into its own as an artist?
Can't tell you. I just play, and that's something that's been decided by others. I just play what I play.
Do you
and
feel
I
like it's
continue
just
to
been a
morph.
continuum, like up until now?
I keep morphing. I keep changing. And when I look back and listen to what I did, that's when I get surprised.
How often do you look back?
I don't know. It's whenever the opportunity or the situation presents itself. Not even an opportunity. It's like trying to hear something that I did. For instance, listening to Birds of Fire, I think, in some parts of Inner Mounting Flame, at one point, say 5 or 6 years ago, because it had been presented to me to do this with a jazz orchestra, with a full-blown orchestra, 22 pieces. At first I rejected it because I didn't want to hear it. That was done. I didn't want to have anything to do with it. And then someone said to me, and I think it was Gary Husband, what would it sound like now if you did the same material now? Wouldn't it be interesting to compare? And it was like a fuse was lit onto me. And now I want to hear it because actually it would be interesting. And in this format, with what is the equivalent to me of a large corporation, I'm going from 5 pieces to 22 pieces. And I even took it one step farther. I invested in a project where I played with 100 pieces where 60 musicians played violin and guitar parts of John.
Wow.
Just to see what would happen. Wow. And how I would involve myself under that. It was really fascinating.
Do you remember your creative process when you were working with Mahavishnu the first time around?
Mm-hmm.
Like how everything fit together and
Sure.
what your role was?
Started out as being duet, guitar and drums for maybe about a week, maybe 10 days. I don't know. That's all we did was play all day and try some things out. John had a series of patterns that he wanted to work on, and I had agreed to just join him and play. In an old, there was like an old factory that no one was working in or living in at the time in Soho. Then along came Jerry Goodman. We recorded a project called My Goals Beyond with Charlie Hayden on bass. And at the same time, John and Jerry were working on lines. And that was maybe for another 2 or 3 days. Couldn't have taken more than a week. And then came Jan Hammer. Rick Laird was the last guy to join us. And he was coming from Australia by boat. And by the time he got in, we had pretty much everything together. And when he started to play, he locked right in. It was fine. It made a lot of sense. So rehearsals took maybe all of 3 weeks. And the first gig was in Marquette, Wisconsin.
Oh, that's
Marquette.
where I'm from, Milwaukee.
Milwaukee, yeah. We had our very first concert was Homecoming at Marquette in 1971.
That's a hip homecoming.
Well, it's funny. It's even hipper. I mean, because Marquette
Did the audience get it?
At that time, Marquette's basketball team was off the charts, man. They were really in a good position.
Was Al the coach, Al McGuire?
That's right.
Now, he used to play poker with my grandfather.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you had all of that happening, and you had us playing on the side of the I-79 side at I-94. At I-94. On the side of the I-94 was Mahavishnu Orchestra playing to the cars as we went by.
Whoa.
And that was our first gig. Yeah, I'll never forget it. It was really, really crazy.
Did it feel special and magical at the time?
No, I was really pissed off because I broke my bass drum head. That's all I can remember. I said, man, what are we doing out here? Yeah, we're playing the cards. They're going by whoosh, whoosh, whoosh.
This episode of The Trap Set is brought to you in part by that great Gretsch sound. USA Custom, Brooklyn, and Broadcaster Series drums, all proudly handcrafted in Ridgeland, South Carolina. For over 130 years, that great Gretsch sound has endured. See everything Gretsch has to offer at GretschDrums.com. Let's talk about your working relationship with Myles. What did you gain from working with him?
Administration aspects of working. He was a great organizer. He was also a person that projected through body language independence of thought. So the process was take from those around you and make a decision as to what you want to do with it, and then do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that sounds, wow, easy. No, it's not. You know, takes a while, lots of mistakes, but the mistakes are your best teacher.
Okay, well, let's talk about how you made the transition from being a sideman or a band member to being a leader. What was that process? Desperation.
I got to eat.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I got fired from the Mahavishnu Orchestra.
What happened?
They fired me.
But
they
why?
decided they didn't want to use me anymore.
Were there like interpersonal conflicts or musical?
They
or
just
both?
sent me the equivalent of a pink slip and said, that's it, we're not doing it
So you
anymore.
didn't see it coming at all?
No. I thought I was still in the band, and all of a sudden I wasn't.
Huh.
So rather than sit there and let the grass grow under my feet and rot, I decided to take my two index fingers and start to punk out something that resembled a tune or two, to put together a series of songs that would make a record, and the process of finding a company. And I was fortunate to be able to do that. End result is that I had a hit record that I only knew about 6 months after it was a hit because I never listened to the radio.
Yeah, I mean, it hit 26 on the pop charts. We're talking about Spectrum.
Yeah.
And number 1 on the jazz charts.
Uh-huh.
And for the kind of record it is, I mean, that must have been a surprise to you that it charted so highly.
Well, it was a surprise to me that it charted at all. Well, the whole objective for me was to make a kind of an LP for my mom and dad, and hey, this is what I did. And for any promoter who would hire me to take a booking.
What did your parents think of it?
What is this?
They didn't get it?
No, how nice, it's good. He has a record. So now they can talk to everybody about their friends. My son made a record. Because, I mean, that's the big thing. Me, it's like, it's a calling card. That's what records were then, and even more now.
Mm-hmm.
And so you hand this over to somebody and say, well, I'd like to play in your club, or I'd like to play someplace in your venue, or I'd like to play as a band in your wedding. I don't know, anything that'll put music and money on or food on the table.
Did you have to play at lots of weddings?
At one point in time, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We played for all kinds of denominations and anything that would make
Bar
it, man.
mitzvahs?
Yeah, Polish, Jewish, anything, man. We just learned the charts, learned the tunes, and try to play. Do the best we could.
You never played Spectrum at a bar mitzvah, though.
No, not that. No,
That would have been an amazing bar mitzvah.
No, because by that time I realized we don't have to play weddings anymore.
Were you able to translate that chart success into financial success for yourself?
No. I mean, it did sell. It did do well. But two negative aspects of my life at that point was, one, I was highly ignorant and naive as to what to do with whatever came in. And also...
You mean you were blowing it, the money?
And without even knowing it. There's, in terms of receiving the funds and applying it, I had no background. I mean, on educationally to do the right thing. So I made a lot of mistakes. On the other hand, I also didn't have management, which is again my fault. I could not find the right people who would even come close to believing in me and me understanding what that belief would be, so that I would gain any positive help. So I just kept going around in a circle at a time when the iron was extremely hot for me in terms of success.
Tell me about your decision to move back to Panama.
I'm getting older. Body says, hey, back off. So that's what we did.
Do you still have family there?
Yes.
And when you were a child, would you go back and visit?
No.
No.
In 2005, 2006 was thereabouts. I made my first foray back there after leaving in 1947.
Did it feel like home?
Not at first. Went to Bocas del Toro. It was all right, But the next time around, I felt, when I went to Colón for the first time, I went to this location where I was born. It was the strangest feeling. I felt like I had returned home. And then I decided that I really wanted to try to see if my wife had agreed with me, if we could make something work out of it. So here we are. We're there.
What are your goals moving forward, creatively and just in your life?
Well, I'm shooting for releasing commercially my first orchestral recording. Okay, it's me with the Hessische Rundfunk Big Band, which is at the Frankfurt Radio Orchestra. And I hope that that'll be released maybe sometime next January or so. Just got the masters and checking things out. I'm completing a 4-record set that I had dedicated to my folks when they passed away. And that next recording, that 4th album, will be go into production probably around the beginning of next year, too. Because the music is a bit dense and very challenging. It's a lot of odd meter stuff, all of that. It takes a little while for us to, what I've learned is
that challenging for you?
No, it's for the other musicians that it's challenging. And, I mean, it's challenging for me from the aspect that I have to provide them a direction and show them how to make things work. I mean, not to take away the intimidation factor of the numbers.
Right.
When you see 27/8, you go, oh, my God. It's just 9.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't know that, Or 9, you can go back 6, 3. In essence, it's a very slow 3. It depends on what's going on inside the bar.
Did you always think that way? Like, did you always find odd meters more natural or just as natural as
for me,
common time?
People would ask me, man, you played 13 and 19 and all of this. And I said, well, yeah. And they said, well, how do you do that? I said, well, how's it feel to you? I said, well, it's like 4 with a couple extra beats.
Yeah.
That's kind of it. It's not about numbers. It's about the phrase.
Mm-hmm.
That's
the phrases that you would hear.
Yeah. It's hard to teach that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that's interesting is that when you're playing it doesn't sound like 4 with a couple extra beats. It sounds like a phrase. It sounds like a complete musical phrase. Yeah.
That's the whole idea. That's how it's been done for thousands of years by the Romanians.
Indians.
Yeah, Indians. I mean, it just flows that way. And that's what it's not to intimidate you. You have to feel it, though. And that separates, again, the rhythmatist from the musician.
Are you still teaching?
Sure.
And when you teach, do you have guiding principles that you abide by?
Not really. Not on the surface. If you ask me a question, and I think I can help you by giving you a competent answer and provide you with an example of what I mean, it's easy. I'll do it.
Right.
No problem. And I'll just do it. Now you'll turn around and say, well, how much does that cost? And I'll say, well, just do it. And that's a heavy payment. Because if you didn't listen to what I had to say, if you didn't adhere to what I said, then you won't be able to pay me because you won't be able to do it. It's not about coins. The payment is that I see you do it.
And you get an enjoyment out of that or a satisfaction.
Yeah, it means that I accomplished something.
Yeah.
Because rarely does that ever happen.
Has that ever happened to you? Has anybody ever told you to do something? Or have you always just known what you wanted to do?
Sure. I sit down with Joe Jones or Papa Joe Jones or Louis Bellson. Great example. I play with 4 sticks. That's Louis. He showed me that. And I told him I didn't think I could do that. He said, just do it. You don't have to do it today. Just try a little bit every day, whenever you think about it. And you'll see. You'll see. That's for you. Here.
Well, what did you sit down and talk to Joe Jones about?
Brushes.
That's probably the best person you could talk about that with.
Well, what you do is that you don't talk to him. You watch what he does. And then he'll say, show me. That's all. And if you can do just a little bit, he takes his newspaper and he hits the brush and says, keep doing it. You'll get it. That's payment. It's like going into a recording studio. The payment after a jingle is not, yeah, Bill, you sounded good.
Right.
That's not payment. That's a kiss of death. What's a payment is, hey, Bill, are you free for the next hour? We have another jingle coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they didn't like what you did, they wouldn't ask you to come do the next one.
Well, I think that's a great place to end.
That's good.
Yeah. Billy Cobham, thank you so much for being here. It's been an honor.
Pleasure's mine.
The Trap Set is produced by me, Joe Wong, along with Chris Karwowski, who also edits the program. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at The Trap Set, and visit our website, thetrapset.net, to subscribe to our show for free. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please donate to our show. If you can't afford to donate, please tell a friend and give us a good rating on iTunes. Send your feedback and guest requests to thetrapset@gmail.com.